welcome to the episode of Pathfinder. It's a matter of coffee.
And a reminder of our top story this evening. Plans for another runway at Heathrow Airport.
I just made a coffee there. I noticed that someone messaged earlier that the music was getting better. Well, the music's exactly the same, really. It's just that people are getting more and more used to it, and that's what I realised, that this music has been played for quite a while until people get used to it. They're not used to it. Unfortunately, I spilled a drink on my keyboard last week or a few days ago, and now my keyboard doesn't work anymore. So because my keyboard doesn't work anymore, I can't really do much more production or any more work on the computer until I get a new keyboard. So maybe I can bring up Lord Vader and see if he's got one. I probably shouldn't keep that there, really. What do you do for a living? I'm a... Well, what do I do for a living? Well, that's a tough question because I'm not really... I don't have a job or anything. I'm self-employed. So I do make music and do this sort of thing, you know. But that's not the main way that I earn my money. I mean, the way that I get my living really is benefits, really, I suppose. So I'm registered disabled. I'm in the mental health system. They think I'm a paranoid schizophrenic. They think I'm a paranoid schizophrenic, but I'm the least paranoid person in the whole world. But they call me a paranoid schizophrenic, and they section me and stuff, and they lock me up. And when I come out, they give me a bit of benefits, and that's how I got this place to live. So I'm trying to get my own money by doing the YouTube channel. The benefits isn't enough to live on. So that's what I'm trying to do. My actual full-time career is music, really. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed that I'm on benefits or in the mental health system. I'm not embarrassed by it or ashamed of it. You know, anyone can end up in there, really. So I'm quite lucky. I've always got a little bit of money coming in as a bit of security. That means that I can focus on trying to create a career that I want to. I have done many jobs in the past. I worked in home base for about 10 years. I became a manager in home base for about 10 years once. But I'm not actually allowed to work anymore. They signed me off work because of what they said was it's not because you can't do a job, it's because of the other people who are around you. They take advantage and stuff. I'm quite a hard worker, really. And that's why they signed me off work, because of the others, not because of me. So, I easily get stressed out, you see. I stress myself out. When I was a manager, I stressed myself right out. I mean, there was no one telling me that I was doing a good job, you see. Because no one told me I was doing a good job, I got stressed out more and more and more. So it's the others. It is bad management. That means if you've got a bad manager, it's just the way it is, man. I mean, and there's bad people everywhere. There's in the normal scope, there's bad people everywhere. I mean, someone told me that if I get 1,000 subscribers on here, the YouTube will start paying me a little bit. But I don't know if it's true or not. I hope it is. I did try running an allotment once, or twice I've tried it actually. Both times I failed, so I mean, I have tried these things. Like, I think it's because when I was a child, I never actually did any farming myself. I never grew a plant while I was a child, and because I never grew a plant as a child, as an adult, I just found it very difficult. It's hard to explain exactly what I mean, but just knowing where to cut things and knowing what to do. It's very tricky allotment work. But I know a guy that can run 3 plots, but I think he's a fucking genius. He's got a job as well. I can get free food off him 365 days a year. Not bad, is it? So I'm actually trying to get off benefits at the moment because benefits isn't enough money. And social services don't look after you at all. Social services just neglect you fully. I mean, they really do neglect you. My windows are broken. And social services won't do anything about it. They said, I've got to fix them. How can I fix them? I haven't even got enough money, you know what I mean? The landlord's only about £800 a month, and he can't afford to pay for it. I think he can. You know, I do think he could. I'm fed up with being stuck with road landlords, social services, benefits. I'm fed up with it all. I'm trying to get my own money. I'm trying to get my own house. That's what I'm trying to do, but it's probably never going to happen. But I've been sectioned under the Mental Health Act enough times. I've done section 3s and section 2s and lost count of how many times I've been in there, you know. That's what they do to me, eh? When they've had enough of me or when they want to shut me up, just lock me up, over-medicate me, send me back in the community. That's what they do. That's what they done last time. Last time, they definitely over-medicate. I'm a man of knowledge as well. When I'm at home, I don't waste my time fully. I study. I've been off work since 2004. And during that time, I practiced Zen meditation. I started that in 2005. And I've educated myself. I've educated myself to quite a high level now. I say it's quite a high level. It's not really the most educated in the world, but when it comes to etymology of the of the English language, I have studied it on the words that I've studied. You know, I mean, what can I say? I mean, that gives you a good expression rate. It's good for you. Can't wait to get my nose back into the dictionary again. I'm reading another book at the moment. I'm reading The Way of Zen by Alan Watts. And that's what I do with my time. Broadcast, study. I'll study while I'm broadcasting, I will. If I feel like it, if I get round to it. I was reading earlier, but this is the Pathfinder show, and this show is about the viewers. The viewers can, if they want a presentation, I can put a presentation on. Or if they just want to just chill out and listen to music, we can just chill out and listen to music. I'll try and keep quiet for a minute. Well, yeah, since I've been off work, since 2004, I've developed a program called Pathfinder. It's something I discovered to help myself. As it helped me, I know that it can help others. I've emailed it out already, but if you're interested, just email eastsideTelevision@gmail.com. Put the words Pathfinder in the email. We'll just hit reply and attach the file. And you can have a copy. It's well worth reading. It's only 8 pages long. It's only 8 pages with words on it. It's a very small, thin, big booklet. You got a printable version. We email out a printable version. It's called Pathfinder. I've been asleep a lot of the day today. Oh, but I don't know why I've been sleeping so much. Yeah. Before I got sectioned in 1999, I was really going places. I was really going places. I mean, I would have made it much bigger. But when I got sectioned, that was the end of my career, really. And everyone thought I had to change what I was doing and stuff, and even I did as well. Even I thought I had to give up drugs and had to give up this and had to give up that. It took me a while to get back into making music. I couldn't make music at first when I came out of hospital. And the day before I went in, I made about 3 or 4 records. The day before I went in, I got them on tape. I got them here. They're pretty good tunes what I made, really. I don't know how I made them, but I kind of throw them together. I can make music a bit like that now by just throwing things together. I was like, yeah, put that there, put that there, put that there. This is F20 Summer Rolling. This is by LXG. It's not actually a ESO production. It's only 6 degrees, but it feels a lot warmer up here. Right, this is B6 Sticks. Mule, are you still there? I don't know who's there anymore. Mule. I actually think I need another little table up here for my drinks. I need a little table to put my drinks on. I don't want to spit it on my keyboard again. I love this track. It's called Sticks. B6 Sticks. Sometimes you get like a tickly bit behind your throat and it just makes you want to keep coughing.
whenever we worry about our worldly possessions and we don't go out or don't go around or don't do something because we're worried about losing our worldly possessions, or don't lend the car to that person because they might break it, and you actually create a barrier in the flow of your life. Seen much of the world, but what I saw through the TV gave me a great understanding and insight into how the world is, I suppose. Because one thing I really noticed was, no matter how dramatic the story was, it was always just people wandering about, really.
Y82 money.
Music. Me thinks no imitator can imitate deep meditation music. No imitator can do it. But they can imitate punk. They can imitate the jazz. They can almost imitate the classical. But they can't imitate deep classical jazz meditation music. They can't imitate that. Do not believe in any more spiritual teaching than one-on-one. Anyone who has a group of 5 or 10 students really in their conning one is more than one.
This is A85 Vader. I think it's just a beat track. It's not just the beat, it's got the organ in it as well. A85 Vader. Viper Sneak. Yo, I'm back, bro. That's cool. How are you? Are you good? Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Is that? Thanks, bro. I'm good. How about you? I'm very good, thank you. I'm excellent. On top of the world, thanks. It seems like everyone's pretty good, really. I don't know if they're being honest, but when I ask people how they are, they seem to be pretty good, and a lot of people tend to be jokey and stuff. So maybe the mental health state of this country is not so bad after all. I mean, I thought that a lot of people had dread and depression and things like that. Where's Black Lightning? I don't know where Black Lightning is. He's just off earning money. I mean, us guys are self-employed. We have to earn our money. Is that DH? Hello, Eastside Television. Hello. How are you, DH? Yes, Black Lightning's just off earning some money. I mean, we earn money while we're awake. We're always trying to earn money, and that's how it is, really. He's a building contractor as well, so he does a lot of building work as well. He's supposed to be boarding up my windows, and he hasn't got round to it yet. My windows are smashed, you see. He hasn't got round to it yet. But Black Lightning's like my brother. He's like a very close family member of mine. Where's the audio book? I can put it on if you want. I'll put the audio book on.
Enlightenment. What is that? A beggar had been sitting by the side of a road for over 30 years. One day a stranger walked by. "Spare some change," mumbled the beggar, mechanically holding out his old baseball cap. "I have nothing to give you," said the stranger. Then he asked, "What's that you are sitting on?" "Nothing," replied the beggar. "Just an old box. I have been sitting on it for as long as I can remember." "Ever looked inside?" asked the stranger.
Right, I'll do a shout out to my boy Anwar Sadat. All right, thanks very much. Thank you. We'll get back to the audio book now.
"No," said the beggar. "What's the point? There's nothing in there. Have a look inside," insisted the stranger. The beggar managed to pry open the lid. With astonishment, disbelief, and elation, he saw that the box was filled with gold. "I am that stranger who has nothing to give you and who is telling you to look inside. Not inside any box, as in the parable, but somewhere even closer, inside yourself. But I am not a beggar. I can hear you say, those who have not found their true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being in the deep, unshakable peace that comes with it, are beggars, even if they have great material wealth. They are looking outside for scraps of pleasure or fulfillment, for validation, security, or love, while they have a treasure within that not only includes all those things but is infinitely greater than anything the world can offer." The word enlightenment conjures up the idea of some superhuman accomplishment, and the ego likes to keep it that way. But it is simply your natural state of felt oneness with being. It is a state of connectedness with something immeasurable and indestructible, something that, almost paradoxically, is essentially you and yet is much greater than you. It is finding your true nature beyond name and form. The inability to feel this connectedness gives rise to the illusion of separation from yourself and from the world around you. You then perceive yourself, consciously or unconsciously, as an isolated fragment. Fear arises, and conflict within and without becomes the norm. I love the Buddha's simple definition of enlightenment as the end of suffering. There is nothing superhuman in that, is there? Of course. As a definition, it is incomplete. It only tells you what enlightenment is not. No suffering. But what's left when there is no more suffering? The Buddha is silent on that, and his silence implies that you'll have to find out for yourself. He uses a negative definition so that the mind cannot make it into something to believe in or into a superhuman accomplishment, a goal that is impossible for you to attain. Despite this precaution, the majority of Buddhists still believe that enlightenment is for the Buddha, not for them, at least not in this lifetime. You used the word being. Can you explain what you mean by that? Being is the eternal, ever-present one life beyond the myriad forms of life that are subject to birth and death. However, being is not only beyond but also deep within every form as its innermost invisible and indestructible essence. This means that it is accessible to you now as your own deepest self, your true nature. But don't seek to grasp it with your mind. Don't try to understand it. You can know it only when the mind is still, when you are present, when your attention is fully and intensely in the now. Being can be felt, but it can never be understood mentally. To regain awareness of being and to abide in that state of feeling realization is enlightenment.
Alright, this is Curious Snipes. What's up, fuckers? We're just listening to a bit of audio, but because Viper Sneak wanted to listen to it a bit. So we've got the music on in the background, and we're just listening to this. We're on the second part now.
The word being. When you say being, are you talking about God? If you are, then why don't you say it? The word God has become empty of meaning through thousands of years of misuse. I use it sometimes, but I do so sparingly. By misuse, I mean that people who have never even glimpsed the realm of the sacred, the infinite vastness behind that word, use it with great conviction, as if they knew what they are talking about, or they argue against it, as if they knew what it is that they are denying. This misuse gives rise to absurd beliefs, assertions, and egoic delusions, such as my or our God is the only true God, and your God is false, or Nietzsche's famous statement God is dead. The word God has become a closed concept. The moment the word is uttered, a mental image is created, no longer, perhaps, of an old man with a white beard, but still a mental representation of someone or something outside you, and, yes, almost inevitably a male someone or something. Neither God nor being nor any other word can define or explain the ineffable reality behind the word. So the only important question is whether the word is a help or a hindrance in enabling you to experience that toward which it points. Does it point beyond itself to that transcendental reality, or does it lend itself too easily to becoming no more than an idea in your head that you believe in? A mental idol? The word being explains nothing, but nor does God. Being, however, has the advantage that it is an open concept. It does not reduce the infinite invisible to a finite entity. It is impossible to form a mental image of it. Nobody can claim exclusive possession of being. It is your very essence, and it is immediately accessible to you as the feeling of your own presence, the realization I am that is prior to I am this or I am that. So it is only a small step from the word being to the experience of being.
Right, these are excerpts out of The Power of Now. I mean, you can actually download this or buy this yourself from a bookshop or online or from the App Store. I've got the app, and the app is really good.
Identification of the obstacle. What is the greatest obstacle to experiencing this reality? Identification with your mind, which causes thought to become compulsive. Not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction, but we don't realize this because almost everybody is suffering from it, so it is considered normal. This incessant mental noise prevents you from finding that realm of inner stillness that is inseparable from being. It also creates a false mind-made self that casts a shadow of fear and suffering. We will look at all that in more detail later. The philosopher Descartes believed that he had found the most fundamental truth when he made his famous statement, I think, therefore I am. He had, in fact, given expression to the most basic error, to equate thinking with being and identity with thinking. The compulsive thinker, which means almost everyone, lives in a state of apparent separateness, in an insanely complex world of continuous problems and conflict, a world that reflects the ever-increasing fragmentation of the mind. Enlightenment is a state of wholeness, of being at one and therefore at peace, at one with life in its manifested aspect. the world, as well as with your deepest self and life unmanifested, at one with being. Enlightenment is not only the end of suffering and of continuous conflict within and without, but also the end of the dreadful enslavement to incessant thinking. What an incredible liberation this is! Identification with your mind creates an opaque screen of concepts, labels, images, words, judgments, and definitions that blocks all true relationship. It comes between you and yourself, between you and your fellow man and woman, between you and nature, between you and God. It is this screen of thought that creates the illusion of separateness, the illusion that there is you and a totally separate other. You then forget the essential fact that, underneath the level of physical appearances and separate forms, you are one with all that is. By forget, I mean that you can no longer feel this oneness as self-evident reality. You may believe it to be true, but you no longer know it to be true. A belief may be comforting, only through your own experience. However, does it become liberating? Thinking has become a disease. Disease happens when things get out of balance. For example, there is nothing wrong with cells dividing and multiplying in the body, but when this process continues in disregard of the total organism, cells proliferate and we have disease. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. To put it more accurately, it is not so much that you use your mind wrongly, you usually don't use it at all. It uses you. This is the disease. You believe that you are your mind. This is the delusion. The instrument has taken you over. I don't quite agree. It is true that I do a lot of aimless thinking, like most people, but I can still choose to use my mind to get and accomplish things, and I do that all the time. Just because you can solve a crossword puzzle or build an atom bomb doesn't mean that you use your mind. Just as dogs love to chew bones, the mind loves to get its teeth into problems. That's why it does crossword puzzles and builds atom bombs. You have no interest in either. Let me ask you this. Can you be free of your mind whenever you want to? Have you found the off button?
You still want to hear the audio book? Who's there? Viper Sneak, are you still there? I think he's gone.
Realization. You mean stop thinking altogether? No, I can't, except maybe for a moment or two. Then the mind is using you. You are unconsciously identified with it, so you don't even know that you are its slave. It's almost as if you were possessed without knowing it, and so you take the possessing entity to be yourself. The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the possessing entity, the thinker. Knowing this enables you to observe the entity. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You then begin to realize that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought. That thought is only a tiny aspect of that intelligence. You also realize that all the things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. You begin to awaken. Free thinking. What exactly do you mean by watching the thinker? When someone goes to the doctor and says, "I hear a voice in my head," he or she will most likely be sent to a psychiatrist. The fact is that, in a very similar way, virtually everyone hears a voice, or several voices, in their head all the time. The involuntary thought processes that you don't realize you have the power to stop. Continuous monologues or dialogues. You have probably come across mad people in the street incessantly talking or muttering to themselves. Well, that's not much different from what you and all other normal people do.
Says there, Crash Bash, Eastside Television keeps an Android in his house. I don't know what you mean by Android. Is it like a robot-y type thing or something? I don't know.
Except that you don't do it out loud. The voice comments, speculates, judges, compares, complains, likes, dislikes, and so on. The voice isn't necessarily relevant to the situation you find yourself in at the time. It may be reviving the recent or distant past or rehearsing or imagining possible future situations. Here it often imagines things going wrong and negative outcomes. This is called worry. Sometimes this sound
Right, it says, "Hey, can you give a message to my boys in the year 11 bilingual club?" Just done it. Message. A big shout out to the boys in the year 11 bilingual club. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I hope you guys have fun there. That's what it's about, clubs and organisations. That's how we got to find ways of spending our time. I mean, this is a bit like a sort of club in a way, what I've created here, that we can meet up and we can talk and we can ask questions, we can share knowledge, we can share music. That's what it's about, creating social network. This is what social networking is, isn't it? I mean, you join together and you network, and that's what it is, really. You know, bilingual club sounds fun. Bilingual, that means that they're bilingual. They speak two languages, I suppose. Oh, right, I just worked out what that is. Year 11. All right. Bilingual. That's interesting. Do they speak both the same languages, or? Right, okay, let's get back to the presentation.
Free thinking. What exactly do you mean by watching the thinker? When someone goes to the doctor and says, "I hear a voice in my head," he or she will most likely be sent to a psychiatrist. The fact is that, in a very similar way, virtually everyone hears a voice, or several voices, in their head all the time. The involuntary thought processes that you don't realize you have the power to stop. Continuous monologues or dialogues. You have probably come across mad people in the street incessantly talking or muttering to themselves. Well, that's not much different from what you and all other normal people do, except that you don't do it out loud. The voice comments, speculates, judges, compares, complains, likes, dislikes, and so on. The voice isn't necessarily relevant to the situation you find yourself in at the time. It may be reviving the recent or distant past or rehearsing or imagining possible future situations. Here it often imagines things going wrong and negative outcomes. This is called worry.
Well, I only know English myself, and I find that most people don't even know English that speak it, because really what they're speaking is a sort of new speak. They're not speaking an ancient tongue. Now, an ancient tongue, all that means is that the King of Kings was behind the empire, and the King of Kings ordered the language. That's what ancient means. So you got ancient Rome, you got ancient Greek, and you got ancient Egypt, and you got ancient, even India and China's had ancient as well. Wherever the emperor has been, it's called ancient. And where the emperor goes, there's an organized language. But English has never had an emperor yet. It's never had the emperor to sort out the actual way the language works. So modern English is actually a bit of jargon. It's a bit of garbage, really. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So you have to study the etymology of the English language back to Latin. Isn't English just a combination of different languages? It is. You're right. But it doesn't really, it's not a complete language until it's ordered. And that's why you have to study the root of the language back to Latin. Most of the English words come out of Latin or Greek, or it shows you in the etymology dictionary. In the etymology dictionary, it says that this word comes from here or this word comes from there, and it shows you the history of the word. And by studying the history of the word, I mean, the best etymology dictionary to get is what's called the Universal Dictionary of the English Language. I've got 2 copies up here, and that really it was what transforms my vocabulary, and it transformed my expression rate. Helps me with my vocals in music as well. I think then I realised that all these top rappers, they're actually very educated people. They must be. To be able to rhyme like the way that they do, they must know a lot of words. And They must really be educated people. They're not just fools on the street, you know. I don't know, man. Learning more than one. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I could ever learn another language, but I'd like to try it. And I've got on WhatsApp, I've got some foreigners. I'm in a group with some foreigners. I do try and follow what they're writing, and that's how I do it. I don't even know what language it is. I think it's Italian or Spanish, but I try and follow that. And sometimes you can see patterns in the words, and I think that's how the best way to do it is just to follow things like that. But they don't write all the time, these guys, so I don't see much of it. But I mean, and what I'm trying to say is that most people don't even know English yet, let alone learning another language. We've got to learn how to speak English first. English is I don't even know all the words in English yet. I mean, there's so many words in the English language that, I mean, maybe English is a complete language. I don't know, but all I know is it's not an ancient language. It's not like ancient Latin, or ancient Greece, or ancient Egyptian, or ancient Chinese, or ancient Indian. Ancient languages are a complete language. They've got proper explanation, definition, and stuff. You know, modern English has only been around since the 1600s. Did you know that? Before the 1400s, we spoke a different language. It was called Old English. Then there was Middle English, and now we speak modern English. So I think Old English might have been more complete, maybe. I don't know. I think the comes from Old English. I think because in all the other languages, like in French and all the others, they got a masculine and a feminine. But there really is a masculine and a feminine in English as well. Like, for example, maths, matter, and maternal. They're all feminine words. Like fiction's a feminine word. But fact, master is like a feminine word as well because it begins with M. Because it's got an A in it, it makes it like it's a word where feminine and masculine mix together. The master means that it's a bloke, but it's a feminine word. So really, if you study language, women are on top really all the time. Women in language, women are on top. They really are. Matter, matter is a feminine word. I don't know if the men did that to try and lick the arse of the women, but I mean, matter, mathematics, material, all these words are all feminine words. When you look at the masculine words, they're like party, patrol, paternal. And then when you look at the word Pacific is actually a mixture of a feminine and a masculine word, because vacation is a feminine word and pacify is a masculine word. So the Pacific Ocean is where masculine and feminine join together. I think that's a very romantic part of the Bible. So really we have to learn English more than anything. That's what I say. If we are English, so I'd study English before I go looking at other languages. If you read Shakespeare, Old Middle English is more interesting. Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're well right. I mean, Old Model English might be more interesting. I'm sure the Brexiteers agree. So we're still forming our language now. We're still forming it. That's what I believe. We're still actually forming the patterns. There's many things that we say that we don't really need to do. Like, for example, I am going to the shops. Why can't you just say I go shops? Why can't you say that? I go shops. Or I go shops now. Why just say I am going to the shops? Why do you have to say all that? Think about it. That's why I never laugh when a foreigner says I go shops, because I think to myself, well, that is probably the right way to say it. I don't know if we need to order our language the way it is ordered. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it does make sense to me when I read it like this, but yeah, other languages are more straight to the point. Yeah, and maybe English could be like that as well. I mean, no, this makes sense to me though. I can understand what you're saying. Crash Bash, you're quite educated because you write in a very good way. I mean, you write better than my uncle, and my uncle's supposed to have all these degrees and all this stuff. And I don't know what qualifications you've got, but you write very well. I can understand you very well, very clearly. It's very good, Crash Bash. I'm very proud of you.
Times the soundtrack is accompanied by visual images or mental movies. Even if the voice is relevant to the situation at hand, it will interpret it in terms of the past. This is because the voice belongs to your conditioned mind, which is the result of all your
That's
past
all right,
history
Crash Bash,
as
no
well
worries.
as of the collective cultural mindset you inherited. So you see and judge the present through the eyes of the past and get a totally distorted view of it. It is not uncommon for the voice to be a person's own worst enemy. Many people live with a tormentor in their head that continuously attacks and punishes them and drains them of vital energy. It is the cause of untold misery and unhappiness, as well as of disease. The good news is that you can free yourself from your mind. This is the only true liberation. You can take the first step right now. Start listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. Pay particular attention to any repetitive thought patterns, those old gramophone records that have been playing in your head perhaps for many years. This is what I mean by watching the thinker, which is another way of saying, listen to the voice in your head. Be there as the witnessing presence. When you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. That is to say, do not judge. Do not judge or condemn what you hear. For doing so would mean that the same voice has come in again through the back door. You'll soon realize, there is the voice, and here I am listening to it, watching it. This I am realization, this sense of your own presence, is not a thought. It arises from beyond the mind. Listening to your thoughts. So when you listen to a thought, you are aware not only of the thought but also of yourself as the witness of the thought. A new dimension of consciousness has come in. As you listen to the thought, you feel a conscious presence, your deeper self, behind or underneath the thought, as it were. The thought then loses its power over you and quickly subsides, because you are no longer energizing the mind through identification with it. This is the beginning of the end of involuntary and compulsive thinking. When a thought subsides, you experience a discontinuity in the mental stream, a gap of no mind. At first, the gaps will be short, a few seconds perhaps, but gradually they will become longer. When these gaps occur, you feel a certain stillness and peace inside you. This is the beginning of your natural state of felt oneness with being, which is usually obscured by the mind. With practice, the sense of stillness and peace will deepen. In fact, there is no end to its depth. You will also feel a subtle emanation of joy arising from deep within, the joy of being. It is not a trance-like state. Not at all. There is no loss of consciousness here. The opposite is the case. If the price of peace were a lowering of your consciousness, and the price of stillness a lack of vitality and alertness, then they would not be worth having. In this state of interconnectedness, you are much more alert, more awake than in the mind-identified state. You are fully present. It also raises the vibrational frequency of the energy field that gives life to the physical body. As you go more deeply into this realm of no mind, as it is sometimes called in the East, you realize the state of pure consciousness. In that state, you feel your own presence with such intensity and such joy that all thinking, all emotions, your physical body, as well as the whole external world become relatively insignificant in comparison to it. And yet this is not a selfish but a selfless state. It takes you beyond what you previously thought of as yourself. That presence is essentially you and at the same time inconceivably greater than you. What I am trying to convey here may sound paradoxical or even contradictory, but there is no other way that I can express it. Mind streaming. Instead of watching the thinker, you can also create a gap in the mind stream simply by directing the focus of your attention into the now. Just become intensely conscious of the present moment. This is a deeply satisfying thing to do. In this way, you draw consciousness away from mind activity and create a gap of no mind in which you are highly alert and aware but not thinking. This is the essence of meditation. In your everyday life, you can practice this by taking any routine activity that normally is only a means to an end and giving it your fullest attention, so that it becomes an end in itself. For example, every time you walk up and down the stairs in your house or place of work, pay close attention to every step, every movement, even your breathing. Be totally present. Or when you wash your hands, pay attention to all the sense perceptions associated with the activity, the sound and feel of the water, the movement of your hands, the scent of the soap, and so on. Or when you get into your car, after you close the door, pause for a few seconds and observe the flow of your breath. Become aware of a silent but powerful sense of presence. There is one certain criterion by which you can measure your success in this practice: the degree of peace that you feel within. Journey towards enlightenment. So the single most vital step on your journey toward enlightenment is this: learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. One day you may catch yourself smiling at the voice in your head, as you would smile at the antics of a child. This means that you no longer take the content of your mind all that seriously, as your sense of self does not depend on it. Essentials to survive. Isn't thinking essential in order to survive in this world? Your mind is an instrument, a tool. It is there to be used for a specific task, and when the task is completed, you lay it down. As it is, I would say about 80 to 90% of most people's thinking is not only repetitive and useless, but because of its dysfunctional and often negative nature, much of it is also harmful. Observe your mind and you will find this to be true. It causes a serious leakage of vital energy. This kind of compulsive thinking is actually an addiction. What characterizes an addiction? Quite simply this: you no longer feel that you have the choice to stop. It seems stronger than you. It also gives you a false sense of pleasure, pleasure that invariably turns into pain. Addictive thinking. Why should we be addicted to thinking? Because you are identified with it, which means that you derive your sense of self from the content and activity of your mind. Because you believe that you would cease to be if you stopped thinking. As you grow up, you form a mental image of who you are, based on your personal and cultural conditioning. We may call this phantom self the ego. It consists of mind activity and can only be kept going through constant thinking. The term ego means different things to different people, but when I use it here it means a false self, created by unconscious identification with the mind. To the ego, the present moment hardly exists. Only past and future are considered important. This total reversal of the truth accounts for the fact that in the ego mode the mind is so dysfunctional. It is always concerned with keeping the past alive, because without it, who are you? It constantly projects itself into the future to ensure its continued survival and to seek some kind of release or fulfillment there. It says, one day, when this, that, or the other happens, I am going to be okay, happy, at peace. Even when the ego seems to be concerned with the present, it is not the present that it sees. It misperceives it completely because it looks at it through the eyes of the past, or it reduces the present to a means to an end that always lies in the mind-projected future. Observe your mind and you'll see that this is how it works. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moment as long as you are your mind. I don't want to lose my ability to analyze and discriminate. I wouldn't mind learning to think more clearly, in a more focused way, but I don't want to lose my mind. The gift of thought is the most precious thing we have. Without it, we would just be another species of animal. The predominance of mind is no more than a stage in the evolution of consciousness. We need to go on to the next stage now as a matter of urgency. Otherwise, we will be destroyed by the mind, which has grown into a monster. I will talk about this in more detail later. Thinking and consciousness are not synonymous. Thinking is only a small aspect of consciousness. Thought cannot exist without consciousness, but consciousness does not need thought. Enlightenment means rising above thought, not falling back to a level below thought. the level of an animal or a plant. In the enlightened state, you still use your thinking mind when needed, but in a much more focused and effective way than before. You use it mostly for practical purposes, but you are free of the involuntary internal dialogue, and there is inner stillness. When you do use your mind, and particularly when a creative solution is needed, you oscillate every few minutes or so between thought and stillness, between mind and no-mind. No mind is consciousness without thought. Only in that way is it possible to think creatively, because only in that way does thought have any real power. Thought alone, when it is no longer connected with the much vaster realm of consciousness, quickly becomes barren, insane, destructive. The mind is essentially a survival machine, attack and defense against other minds, gathering, storing, and analyzing information. This is what it is good at, but it is not at all creative. All true artists, whether they know it or not, create from a place of no mind, from inner stillness. The mind then gives form to the creative impulse or insight. Even the great scientists have reported that their creative breakthroughs came at a time of mental quietude. The surprising result of a nationwide inquiry among America's most eminent mathematicians, including Einstein, to find out their working methods, was that thinking plays only a subordinate part in the brief, decisive phase of the creative act itself. So I would say that the simple reason why the majority of scientists are not creative is not because they don't know how to think, but because they don't know how to stop thinking. It wasn't through the mind, through thinking, that the miracle that is life on earth or your body was created and is being sustained. There is clearly an intelligence at work that is far greater than the mind. How can a single human cell measuring 1/1,000 of an inch in diameter contain instructions within its DNA that would fill 1,000 books of 600 pages each? The more we learn about the workings of the body, the more we realize just how vast is the intelligence at work within it and how little we know. When the mind reconnects something greater than itself, emotions. What about emotions? I get caught up in my emotions more than I do in my mind. Mind, in the way I use the word, is not just thought. It includes your emotions as well as all unconscious mental emotional reactive patterns. Emotion arises at the place where mind and body meet. It is the body's reaction to your mind, or you might say, a reflection of your mind in the body. For example, an attack thought or a hostile thought will create a buildup of energy in the body that we call anger. The body is getting ready to fight. The thought that you are being threatened, physically or psychologically, causes the body to contract, and this is the physical side of what we call fear. Research has shown that strong emotions even cause changes in the biochemistry of the body. These biochemical changes represent the physical or material aspect of the emotion. Of course, you are not usually conscious of all your thought patterns, and it is often only through watching your emotions that you can bring them into awareness. The more you are identified with your thinking, your likes and dislikes, judgments and interpretations, which is to say the less present you are as the watching consciousness, the stronger the emotional energy charge will be, whether you are aware of it or not. If you cannot feel your emotions, if you are cut off from them, you will eventually experience them on a purely physical level, as a physical problem or symptom. A great deal has been written about this in recent years, so we don't need to go into it here. A strong unconscious emotional pattern may even manifest as an external event that appears to just happen to you. For example, I have observed that people who carry a lot of anger inside without being aware of it and without expressing it are more likely to be attacked, verbally or even physically, by other angry people, and often for no apparent reason. They have a strong emanation of anger that certain people pick up subliminally and that triggers their own latent anger. If you have difficulty feeling your emotions, start by focusing attention on the inner energy field of your body. Feel the body from within. This will also put you in touch with your emotions. We will explore this in more detail later. Mind's reflection. You say that an emotion is the mind's reflection in the body, but sometimes there is a conflict between the two. The mind says no while the emotion says yes, or the other way around. If you really want to know your mind, the body will always give you a truthful reflection. So look at the emotion, or rather feel it in your body. If there is an apparent conflict between them, the thought will be the lie. The emotion will be the truth. Not the ultimate truth of who you are, but the relative truth of your state of mind at that time. Conflict between surface thoughts and unconscious mental processes is certainly common. You may not yet be able to bring your unconscious mind activity into awareness as thoughts, but it will always be reflected in the body as an emotion, and of this you can become aware. To watch an emotion in this way is basically the same as listening to or watching a thought, which I described earlier. The only difference is that, while a thought is in your head, an emotion has a strong physical component and so is primarily felt in the body. You can then allow the emotion to be there without being controlled by it. You no longer are the emotion. You are the watcher, the observing presence. If you practice this, all that is unconscious in you will be brought into the light of consciousness. So observing our emotions is as important as observing our thoughts? Yes. Make it a habit to ask yourself, what's going on inside me at this moment? That question will point you in the right direction. But don't analyze. Just watch. Focus your attention within. Feel the energy of the emotion. If there is no emotion present, take your attention more deeply into the inner energy field of your body. It is the doorway into being. Body's reaction. What does it represent? An emotion usually represents an amplified and energized thought pattern, and because of its often overpowering energetic charge, it is not easy initially to stay present enough to be able to watch it. It wants to take you over, and it usually succeeds, unless there is enough presence in you. If you are pulled into unconscious identification with the emotion through lack of presence, which is normal, the emotion temporarily becomes you. Often a vicious circle builds up between your thinking and the emotion. They feed each other. The thought pattern creates a magnified reflection of itself in the form of an emotion, and the vibrational frequency of the emotion keeps feeding the original thought pattern. By dwelling mentally on the situation, event, or person that is the perceived cause of the emotion, the thought feeds energy to the emotion, which in turn energizes the thought pattern, and so on. Basically, all emotions are modifications of one primordial, undifferentiated emotion that has its origin in the loss of awareness of who you are beyond name and form. Because of its undifferentiated nature, it is hard to find a name that precisely describes this emotion. Fear comes close, but apart from a continuous sense of threat, it also includes a deep sense of abandonment and incompleteness. It may be best to use a term that is as undifferentiated as that basic emotion and simply call it pain. One of the main tasks of the mind is to fight or remove that emotional pain, which is one of the reasons for its incessant activity. But all it can ever achieve is to cover it up temporarily. In fact, the harder the mind struggles to get rid of the pain, the greater the pain. The mind can never find the solution, nor can it afford to allow you to find the solution, because it is itself an intrinsic part of the problem. Imagine a chief of police trying to find an arsonist when the arsonist is the chief of police. You will not be free of that pain until you cease to derive your sense of self from identification with the mind, which is to say from ego. The mind is then toppled from its place of power and being reveals itself as your true nature. Yes, I know what you are going to ask. I was going to ask, what about positive emotions such as love and joy? They are inseparable from your natural state of interconnectedness with being. Glimpses of love and joy or brief moments of deep peace are possible whenever a gap occurs in the stream of thought. For most people, such gaps happen rarely and only accidentally, in moments when the mind is rendered speechless, sometimes triggered by great beauty, extreme physical exertion, or even great danger. Suddenly, there is inner stillness, and within that stillness there is a subtle but intense joy. There is love, there is peace. Usually, such moments are short-lived, as the mind quickly resumes its noise-making activity that we call thinking. Love, joy, and peace cannot flourish until you have freed yourself from mind dominance. But they are not what I would call emotions. They lie beyond the emotions, on a much deeper level. So you need to become fully conscious of your emotions and be able to feel them before you can feel that which lies beyond them. Emotion literally means disturbance. The word comes from the Latin emovere, meaning to disturb. Love, joy, and peace are deep states of being, or rather three aspects of the state of interconnectedness with being. As such, they have no opposite. This is because they arise from beyond the mind. Emotions, on the other hand, being part of the dualistic mind, are subject to the law of opposites. This simply means that you cannot have good without bad, So in the unenlightened, mind-identified condition, what is sometimes wrongly called joy is the usually short-lived pleasure side of the continuously alternating pain-pleasure cycle. Pleasure is always derived from something outside you, whereas joy arises from within. The very thing that gives you pleasure today will give you pain tomorrow, or it will leave you, so its absence will give you pain. And what is often referred to as love may be pleasurable and exciting for a while, but it is an addictive clinging, an extremely needy condition that can turn into its opposite at the flick of a switch. Many love relationships, after the initial euphoria has passed, actually oscillate between love and hate, attraction and attack. Real love doesn't make you suffer. How could it? It doesn't suddenly turn into hate, nor does real joy turn into pain. As I said, even before you are enlightened, before you have freed yourself from your mind, you may get glimpses of true joy, true love, or of a deep inner peace, still but vibrantly alive. These are aspects of your true nature, which is usually obscured by the mind. Even within a normal addictive relationship, there can be moments when the presence of something more genuine, something incorruptible, can be felt, but they will only be glimpses, soon to be covered up again through mind interference. It may then seem that you had something very precious and lost it, or your mind may convince you that it was all an illusion anyway. The truth is that it wasn't an illusion, and you cannot lose it. It is part of your natural state, which can be obscured but can never be destroyed by the mind. Even when the sky is heavily overcast, the sun hasn't disappeared. It's still there on the other side of the clouds. The Buddha says that pain or suffering arises through desire or craving, and that to be free of pain we need to cut the bonds of desire. All cravings are the mind seeking salvation or fulfillment in external things and in the future as a substitute for the joy of being. As long as I am my mind, I am those cravings, those needs, wants, attachments, and aversions, and apart from them there is no I except as a mere possibility, an unfulfilled potential, a seed that has not yet sprouted. In that state, even my desire to become free or enlightened is just another craving for fulfillment or completion in the future. So don't seek to become free of desire or achieve enlightenment. Become present. Be there as the observer of the mind. Instead of quoting the Buddha, be the awakened one, which is what the word Buddha means. Humans have been in the grip of pain for eons, ever since they fell from the state of grace, entered the realm of time and mind, and lost awareness of being. At that point, they started to perceive themselves as meaningless fragments in an alien universe, unconnected to the source and to each other. Pain is inevitable as long as you are identified with your mind, which is to say as long as you are unconscious. Spiritually speaking, I am talking here primarily of emotional pain, which is also the main cause of physical pain and physical disease. Resentment, hatred, self-pity, guilt, anger, depression, jealousy, and so on, even the slightest irritation, are all forms of pain. And every pleasure or emotional high contains within itself the seed of pain, its inseparable opposite, which will manifest in time. Anybody who has ever taken drugs to get high will know that the high eventually turns into a low, that the pleasure turns into some form of pain. Many people also know from their own experience how easily and quickly an intimate relationship can turn from a source of pleasure to a source of pain. Seen from a higher perspective, both the negative and the positive polarities are faces of the same coin, are both part of the underlying pain that is inseparable from the mind-identified egoic state of consciousness. There are two levels to your pain: the pain that you create now, and the pain from the past that still lives on in your mind and body. Ceasing to create pain in the present and dissolving past pain. This is what I want to talk about now.
Right. That's the end of chapter 1 of The Power of Now. It was Viper Sneak that asked me to put it on. I don't think he's there anymore. I played chapter 1 anyway. I don't think the listeners really like listening to this because they don't tend to stay on. So I played chapter 1. I think on Sunday I'm going to try and play the whole book. I almost played it last Sunday, and I didn't really try, and I took many breaks and stuff. But on Sunday, I think I'm going to start first thing in the morning playing the book. I'm going to play it right through. But something that I noticed what they were going on about there, they only mentioned it very briefly about duality of mind. Now, that is a serious topic because duality of mind is what most people have, what normal people have, a duality of mind. That's what the thinking mind is. The thoughts are the mind in duality. Your mind is talking to the other mind, and that's what thought is. Thought is, if you've got a thinking mind, your mind is in duality. It's not in unity. It's not in I and I. It's not working together. It's like your left and the right arm are working independently. They're not working together. You couldn't clap your hands. Your left and right mind are independent. And that's what duality of mind means. So that's why we need to meditate to get rid of the duality of mind and to make it a unity of mind. The duality of mind is actually schizophrenia, split mind. That's what it means. And that's what all normal people have, a split schizophrenic duality mind, which is going to cause you to be a great big hypocrite when you're cussing the stars for doing what they do. You're just a huge hypocrite because you would have done 10 times worse things, 10 times or 20 times, because most of the stars have got a better mindset anyway. Most of them have. You need to have a good mindset to make it. So yeah, you're just a huge hypocrite, really, if you're a normal person. Anyway, let's turn the music up a bit. We'll try listening to the music again and see what people say. Maybe I can play the audio book for the listeners that are tuning in, but they're not registering on my screen. But we'll play it on Sunday anyway. We're going to play it on Sunday. All day we're going to play the audio book. I think that's the day we should do it. Sunday is Power of Now Day. Sunday is the Power of Now Day. We're going to be reading the Power of Now all day, starting about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning through till 10 o'clock at night. We'll finish the book in a day. I nearly done it last Sunday. We'll play the whole book on Sunday. Alright, thank you very much. Goodbye. thing about the ego is that there's actually two egos, because you've got a left and right mind. Because you've got a left and right mind, there's actually two egos. There's a primary ego, which is the left mind, and then there's a secondary ego, which is the right mind. So when you meditate out the primary ego, you're left with the secondary ego, which might even sound like a voice in your head. It's coming from the right mind. And it's like a little tiny thought. And some people think that's the voice of God, but it's not the voice of God. It's still ego. Analyze it and you'll see that it's still delusional. You have to meditate that out as well. And that's when you get the head movements. When you meditate them out. This is A26 Leaf. Sorry, A28 Leaf. A28 Leaf. Do chapter 2 of The Power of Now. Let's have a look. What's this on this Twitter? Let's have a look. Now Day on Sunday. Sunday Power Now Day all day. We'll be reading the book all day. One, two, right.
Are you having a nice time? I'm having a perfectly nice time. There we are then, we're all having a nice time. Are you having a nice time? There we are then, we're all having a nice time. Are you having a nice time? I'm having a perfectly nice time. There we are then, we're all having a nice time. Are you having a nice time? I'm having a perfectly... There we are then, we're all having a nice, bloody nice. Why does everything have to be nice all the time? I mean, I'm having a perfect... There we are then, we're all having a nice time. There we are then, we're all having... There we are then, we're all having... There we are then, we're all having... There we are then, we're all having a nice time now. I just want to be so nice. I just want to smell to be nice.
Nowadays is Sunday. That's the day that we're going to do it. We're mainly. You can read it other times, but Sunday is the main day for reading the whole book. I might be fully disciplined soon, I think, because there's not much going on anymore. Right, this is B23 Lamb. I must say, even though I'm a vegetarian, I do like a bit of lamb, and even as a vegetarian, every now and again, I don't know, I mean, I haven't eaten it for a long time, but even as a vegetarian, every now and again, I'd eat a bit of lamb. Something about it, roast lamb. I do like roast lamb. I mean, I ain't eaten it for a long time, but I do like it. It's lovely. Roast lamb is gorgeous. Even though I'm a vegetarian, I can't eat meat anymore. I just can't do it. There's something about it. It's a rotten carcass, and I can't eat it. You know, it's a rotten carcass, and how can I eat a rotten carcass? You know. Quite quiet on the message front tonight. Not many people viewing in tonight. I wonder why that is. There must be something on television or something. There must be something else going on that's more exciting. If that happens, then I fail, but never mind. There might be lots of people viewing that aren't registering on my screen. A lot of people viewed that show earlier when I was sleeping. So people are just listening to the music, so that's all right, really. This is by ICH. It's not an Eastside Studio production. It's by ICH. It looks creepy. I look creepy? Well, that's a judgment, and you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. If I look creepy, well, that's what everyone might think. Well, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. You're obviously pissed off anyway, so got no content. Yeah, you have got no content as well. Right, this is a track called Spring. It's by Lawrence Greenman and Carlos Benos, and it was produced in Eastside Studio. Carlos Benos is one of the best classical guitarists in the world. if not the best classical guitarist in the world. I mean, I was very chuffed and very lucky and very glad to work with him. This is Lawrence Greenman's bit. It's got Carlos Benos underneath. That's Carlos Benos and Lawrence Greenman together. It's a project that I turned down at first. I said, no, I can't do that. I'd only use one little bit of the tune or something and just make my own tune out of it. And they go, you can do what you want with it. You can do what you want with it. So I took it and listened, and I thought, oh, fucking, it's quite good actually, you know. And I made this out of it. They liked it. Oh, let's see who this is. Wow, another nice day. Hello. Alright, I'm coming down. Alright, thank you. Don't answer calls anymore. If you want to text the studio, you can say things like the power of now. You can text the studio. If you text the studio and you say the power of now, I'll start reading it. I'll start from chapter 2 because we read chapter 1 already. But I'm not going to answer calls to the public anymore because the public tend to just, for some reason, want to have a go or be negative. I ain't got time for that. I ain't really got time to talk on the phone anyway. You can always do an audio message or in WhatsApp or video message. I don't mind watching video messages or audio messages, but I'm not going to answer the phone to bullshit. And people just want to fling bullshit at me. When I try to do a good service and people just want to fling bullshit at me, well, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in bullshit. I only accept calls from my contacts now. So if you want to get in the contact list, the only way you can do it is by texting me. Dude looks creepy as a judgment. So your judgment is looking creepy. Well, that means that you probably do look creepy and I don't. It's your judgment. You're judged back the same measure. It's that side of the Bible. You're creepy yourself. You probably are creepy. This is D62 penicillin. D62 penicillin. You can always text through requests if you want, or message on the screen. I don't mind how you do it. If you message on the screen, or if you text the phone, if you text the D62 penicillin, we'd play it. We haven't even got all the tunes in this playlist. I was meant to try and find a tune, and I can't find it. It's not even in here. This is E-Factual. I'm the only one here. Wow. Well, there's actually another person as well. So got no content. Are you all right? How are you feeling today? You okay? Be honest, because if you're not honest, then you can't get the right response. I'd be honest if I was you. If you're feeling dread, say you're feeling dread. If you're feeling oppressed, say you're feeling oppressed. If you're feeling poor, or whatever it is, just be honest. And that's the only way that I can assist you, really. Your mental health is my priority above anything, really. Your health and your mind state is the most important thing to me. More important than anything.
Yeah, we're not blind. We're not blind to our eyes, we're not blind to our mind. We can see clearly. We see the we see the 480 degrees. We can see everything. Yeah, it takes much practice, much discipline, much mastering, much meditation, much zazen, for the Zen. School and thought.
You're not okay. Okay, all right. Can you tell me? Is it emotional and thoughts? Is it emotional and thoughts, or something like that? Is it, or is it a financial situation, or is it a life situation, or is it the way that you're feeling? Can you explain that a little bit? Like, is it how you're feeling, or is it a financial problem? I can't sort you out a financial problem. I can't solve your financial problem, but we just need to know whether it's a mental problem or whether it's just the way I feel, sadness. Okay, I can put on a little presentation for you if you want. Do you want me to put on a little presentation? I'll try it. Well, it's up to you, really. Is the music making you feel better, or do you want a little presentation? Sure, yeah? All right, okay, I'll put the presentation on.
He was the defender of the faith, but I'm not a defender of the faith. I'm not a defender of the faith at all. A faith or belief? Nah, I'm not a defender of that. Bullshit to that. Fuck that. Bullshit. Fuck the Bible. The Bible, alright? Look, it's just a fiction book, like Harry Potter, or like The Alchemist, or like a fiction book. Why all the characters only got one name?
Enlightenment. What is that? A beggar had been sitting by the side of a road for over 30 years. One day a stranger walked by. Spare some change, mumbled the beggar, mechanically holding out his old baseball cap. I have nothing to give you, said the stranger. Then he asked, what's that you are sitting on? Nothing, replied the beggar. Just an old box. I have been sitting on it for as long as I can remember. Ever looked inside? Asked the stranger. No, said the beggar. What's the point? There's nothing in there. Have a look inside, insisted the stranger. The beggar managed to pry open the lid. With astonishment, disbelief, and elation. He saw that the box was filled with gold. I am that stranger who has nothing to give you and who is telling you to look inside. Not inside any box, as in the parable, but somewhere even closer, inside yourself. But I am not a beggar. I can hear you say, those who have not found their true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being in the deep, unshackable peace that comes with it, are beggars, even if they have great material wealth. They are looking outside for scraps of pleasure or fulfillment, for validation, security, or love, while they have a treasure within that not only includes all those things but is infinitely greater than anything the world can offer. The word enlightenment conjures up the idea of some superhuman accomplishment, and the ego likes to keep it that way, but it is simply your natural state of felt oneness with being. It is a state of connectedness with something immeasurable and indestructible, something that, almost paradoxically, is essentially you and yet is much greater than you. It is finding your true nature beyond name and form. The inability to feel this connectedness gives rise to the illusion of separation, from yourself and from the world around you. You then perceive yourself, consciously or unconsciously, as an isolated fragment. Fear arises, and conflict within and without becomes the norm. I love the Buddha's simple definition of enlightenment as the end of suffering. There is nothing superhuman in that. Is there? Of course. As a definition, it is incomplete. It only tells you what enlightenment is not. No suffering. But what's left when there is no more suffering? The Buddha is silent on that, and his silence implies that you'll have to find out for yourself. He uses a negative definition so that the mind cannot make it into something to believe in or into a superhuman accomplishment, a goal that is impossible for you to attain. Despite this precaution, the majority of Buddhists still believe that enlightenment is for the Buddha, not for them, at least not in this lifetime. You used the word being. Can you explain what you mean by that? Being is the eternal, ever-present one life beyond the myriad forms of life that are subject to birth and death. However, being is not only beyond but also deep within every form as its innermost invisible and indestructible essence. This means that it is accessible to you now as your own deepest self, your true nature. But don't seek to grasp it with your mind. Don't try to understand it. You can know it only when the mind is still, when you are present, when your attention is fully and intensely in the now. Being can be felt, but it can never be understood mentally. To regain awareness of being and to abide in that state of feeling realization is enlightenment.
Got no content? Are you still there? Seems like this put you off it. I mean, you were listening to the music and then I said I'd put this on and you're gone. I mean, strange. But you just ask me to turn it off if you want. I mean, that was from The Power of Now anyway. It's by Eckhart Tolle. And alright, see yourself for now.
Let's get down. Let's get down. Let's get down to the funky sound of the underground. Yeah, come on, let's get down today. Every day we should get down and boogie and play. Oh yeah, come on, everybody. Let's rock tonight. Let's rock and roll it. I'm like rolling. On the drum, still play love music. My dad was still saying, yeah, he always said that. But you use the computers like 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 that. But you use the computer to make that. But you use the computer to make that. Computers like that. Come on, everybody. Everybody. Oh, I feel real happy. We should feel happy every day. Happiness is the natural state felt without dysfunction inflicted on us by our nurture. Nurture is imperfect. Steps. Only 1 in 4 children have a good nurture. Performance, recording, editing, arranging. All the rest, fucked up. Dysfunctional. Just 5 steps. 5 steps in production. Yeah, recording. Recording is the most important thing. And the performance. Practice each and every day. When he feels sad and I was playing the presentation and now he's gone. So now I'll never know whether he's sorted himself out a little bit by listening to the presentation or what. Don't know. Maybe he got inspired by the presentation. I don't know. I would listen to more of it if I was you. But... This is B12 battery.
maybe got put off by the word Buddha or something. Some Christians, if they hear the word Buddha, it puts them off the book. Well, bad soil, isn't it? I mean, why was Jesus visited by three kings from the east? You know, you got to understand that this teaching is part of it. I mean, this is the deliverance side. If you're not interested in the deliverance side, then deliverance doesn't mean you're delivered from having fun. You have more fun. You're like a little child in a playground all the time, even when you're at work and when you're cleaning and when you're at home, and no matter what you're doing, it's like you're in a playground. You're having fun. That's what it's like. Yeah, it's starting to cool down a bit. I might put the heating on a little bit. I'm just curious, Snipes, to what is going on. Well, I don't know if you're still there, but basically, I'm just making a cup of tea and I'm about to roll up a joint. And that's it, really. I just put the heating on because it's getting a little bit cold, but it's just a little bit cold in the air, sort of thing, you know. And I like to keep the equipment warmed up a little bit because the equipment can break in the cold. And I lost 2 keys on that keyboard from it being too cold. So that's why I put the heating on to warm the equipment up. I don't really need it. I could always just put another coat on. It's probably about time I bought a new synthesizer, really. This one's broken. I could put this one downstairs or put this one in another studio. It'd still be used. I mean, other people could use it. I mean, it's still usable. I'm thinking of building another studio downstairs. First of all, I've got to raise the money, so I need people to subscribe to this channel, really.
Are you ready for this?
I might open it up as a free studio to start off with, and then make it £1, then £2, £3, £4, £5, up to £10, and we'll make it free first. Where do you go when you leave? I just went into the kitchen. This is a 1-bedroom flat, so this is the bedroom. But there's no bed in here because it's a studio, you know. I mean, this is the actual bedroom. That's why there's a wardrobe over there. It was a furnished flat, so had wardrobes and stuff in it. But in there is the office, and then in there is a bathroom. There's a hallway there. There's a bathroom, and there's a kitchen. So this is my studio, and that's my office. All right, yeah. And downstairs, we're thinking of building another studio, but I haven't got the money at the moment because I need some money for some new equipment, and not a lot of equipment, but I do need to get a lot of equipment, really, and set it up professionally, set it up properly, so that people can do what they want in there. And I want to get some DJ controllers in there so that I can mix my tunes in there. I can't get a DJ controller up here anymore. It just won't fit. I just couldn't fit it in here. I can't see how I could ever fit a DJ controller up here. I used to have one up here, but it broke, and now I've moved everything around. There's just no way it'll ever fit in here. So I need to build a studio downstairs with a DJ controller in it. And then people can just teach themselves how to mix. That'd be really good. They can just experiment. And and eventually I'm going to rent out the studio and I'm going to charge money for it. I think that's the way we should do it. I don't know, maybe we could keep it free. I mean, just a members club, and it's just, yeah, maybe we'll keep it free just as a members club. I'd invest in it, and yeah. Bob Marley's got a studio which is free. Jean Paul uses it. I think it'd be good for Black Lightning to use a studio downstairs. I think it'd be very good for it. Got to go. All right. Is that what that means? GTG, I suppose, got to go. There's something about just listening to a clean beat. I like it. I enjoy it a lot, just listening to a beat on its own. Even if it is just looping. We can skip it on whenever we want. No need. Skipped already. This is B9 Lion. Curious Snipes has got an interesting image as a photo. It's an interesting image. I like that. I just like interesting images. I mean, this is B9 Lion. If you ever want to request it, you text it through to the studio, or you can message on the screen B9 Lion. What's your name, Eastside Television? My name is Johnny. I'm Johnny. You can call me Johnny, I don't mind. If you want to say Johnny this or Johnny that, or Johnny, what do you think of this? Or because sometimes you might want to ask someone else a question in the stream, but you're all right, Johnny. That cough really doesn't sound good, man. Yeah, I know, but I've had it for years and I'm not bothered by it at all. I mean, I know that when my time is up, my time is up, and I'm sure I'll make it another 10 or 20 years. I'm sure I will. And I've only got to stay alive to get my message across. And when I get my message across, that's it. My purpose is done. Yeah, that's it. And my purpose did come from learning stuff from smoking herbs. And smoking herbs is my best teacher. It teaches me a lot. It teaches me stuff to do with music, teaches me stuff to do with knowledge. When I'm reading a book and I'm getting high, it's a different interpretation. It's reading between the lines. It's analysing it. It's like when I realised that in British history, it says that we had the age of reason in about 1850. We can't have had the age of reason. If we'd had the age of reason, we wouldn't have had World War I, World War II, and we wouldn't all still be fussing and fighting today. We haven't had the age of reason. A lot of people are not reasonable people. I don't think they are anyway. There was a guy up here earlier today. I think I ought to ban him because I can't reason with him. He just talks at me. And that's no good. I think I've got to ban him. You know, even though I can make some money out of him, I've got to ban him. And I hope that by banning him, it will open up a market of new people. Sometimes that happens. You ban someone and then you get another 5 people turn up that are more decent-minded. That's what happens sometimes. It's just the way a flow of life goes. You ban one person and then you open yourself up to new people. But I think the way to reach the age of reason is to stop interrupting each other. That's what I think. You should aim to live longer than 20 years. My goal is to live as long as possible. Well, I'm not really too worried. I feel like I've lived long enough already anyway. I mean, I've got to 44 now. I'm 44 years old, and that's quite old. And I don't really want to get too old with a really decrepit body and stuff. I just don't want to get old, really. I'd rather die a bit younger. 10 or 20 years is fine for me. I mean, I don't want to live any longer. And I think I can get my message across in that time. 20 years would take me up to 64. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, you say you want to live as long as possible, but what's the point? I mean, as long as you're enjoying life. See, I'm enjoying life so much now that it doesn't matter when my life ends. And I can't even see that I am going to die, because how can I die when I'm having so much fun? I mean, if I do, I do, but I just can't see it at the moment. I can't see how it's going to happen. Even with smoking and the cough, I just can't see how I'm actually going to die, because I would have thought you need a level of pain to die, and I haven't got a level of pain. So when I die, it'll be fully peaceful, or I don't understand. At the moment, I can't see myself dying. I might even reach the immortal realm. I don't know. I know it is possible to become immortal. It is possible. And it comes from deep meditation, awareness, and angle matter, and all these things. And you can smoke if you're immortal. I mean, does it hurt to cough? No, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. It's just clearing out my lungs. That's all it is. It's all right. Coughing's not that bad for you anyway. I should be drinking eucalyptus tea, really. That's what I should be doing. And smoking eucalyptus, but I'm waiting for a delivery at the moment. I think I've got to go and put my order in again, because she hasn't called me back. So my uncle used to cough all the time because he was a smoker. All right. Is he still alive, or did he pass away, or what happened? He did say he used to cough all the time because he was a smoker. So it sounds like he's passed away. He didn't die. He just stopped smoking. Oh, wow. That's good. That's very good. Very impressed, very proud. I won't stop smoking because I get too much pleasure from it, and it teaches me too much. And if it kills me, it kills me. I'm not bothered. Anything can kill you anyway. Even walking down the road, you can get steamrolled by a lorry or something. You know what I mean? Maybe I need to take a break, but the thing is, it's very difficult for me to take a break because I'm surrounded by so much herbs. I'm surrounded by so much of it. It's very hard to take a break. I've managed to get quite a lot of herbs, and I'm quite lucky to have this much. I do feel very blessed and very lucky at the moment. People tend to have more money in the economy at the moment. I don't understand where all this money's coming from, but people are coming with £20 notes all the time. It's regular now that people want £20 notes. They come in with 20s. It's very regular. Very often. In the old days, it was like £5 and £3 and £2 and £2.50, and everyone was like that. This is F15 by Fort Uno. So Crash Bash, what's your mental health like? Are you alright? You got to be honest, man, because honesty is the only way to understand, to get the real treatment or understand. I'm mainly concerned about people's mental health. That's mainly what I'm about. I'm really a mental health service, really. I'm here to support the NHS in curing or helping mental health. I just hate the way I look. Oh no, that's not very nice. That's a lack of self-confidence or something. Right, I just hate the way I look. Well, that is not good. That is not very good. But I can't quite tell you what the answer is. But I think that's a low self-esteem. Or is it that you've been rejected by women or something? I'm sure there's nothing wrong with the way you look, really, but I can't just say that to you. I mean, you just hate the way you look. I mean, that's a confidence thing, I think. I think it comes from self-esteem, and maybe you need some mirror awareness. Maybe you should just look in the mirror more often. Try and come to terms with the way you look. And I remember when I was younger, I just don't like what I see in the mirror. I don't think anyone really likes looking at themselves, really. I mean, I think I look a bit like a scary sort of character. I think I look scary to other people. And I think that's why other people don't really like approaching me. And it's quite a safety mechanism, because on the street, no one really bothers me. I don't know if you know what I mean, but even myself, I think I look a bit strange, but I always have. Some people say I look Asian, but to me, I don't think I do. And I don't think I look like any, to me, I don't think I look like any particular race or breed that exists on the planet. I think I look unique. And the look that I get, I know what you mean. I think it's perfectly normal to think things like that. But what you need to do is get confidence from what you do. When you get confidence from things that you do, and also if people give you good compliments, so if a woman says, "Oh, you look fit," or "You look this," or "You look that," that's going to help. And I don't know how old you are, but it's going to take time for someone to say you look nice, or you. One day someone's going to say that to you. One day You'll be surprised. You know, I almost guarantee it that one day a woman is going to say, I don't know if you're a woman or a man, but whichever way around you are, the other sex is going to say to you, you look nice, or you look great, or you look sexy, or you look this, or you look that. And that'll probably happen one day. And maybe you need to wait for that day, but I guarantee you that will happen one day because I'm sure I've had it. I'm sure I know I've had girls say that you look well fit and you look sexy, and girls pinch my bum sometimes, and I never thought I was attractive, you know. But when you get older, the older you get, the more attractive you become to women. When you're a young man, you're not really attracted to women for some reason. You can be to the older woman. When I was a young man, I was actually with older women. I know it sounds funny. When I was young, I was with older women. And now I find myself with much younger women. I did go out with a 21-year-old a little while ago. And the other day, someone on here offered me his sister at 22 years old. That's all right, Crash Bash. I don't really know if I supported you that well. I haven't really given you a solution. All I've said is I expressed my viewpoint, but it hasn't. It's not really a solution. What I'd say the solution is to find something that you fear a little bit, or something that is a little bit of a challenge, or a goal that you want to achieve, and then do that. And when you do that, that'll give you self-confidence, and your self-confidence can be in what you're actually doing. And as you achieve these things, you'll end up meeting someone that will give you some sort of clarification that you do look okay. And I'm sure you do look okay. I'm sure you do. I mean, to me, I don't really notice any ugliness in the world. I mean, this whole ugliness and beautiness, it's all to do with the material world, because when you get rid of the material world and vanity and stuff like that, then we're all just human beings, you know, and we're all beautiful. We all are. I think we all are. You get to my age and you think everyone's beautiful. I just see beauty in everyone, you know. I'm sure you look fine anyway. And I would just start off with a goal that you want to achieve and do that goal, tick it off, and just keep going for goals and just keep ticking them off. That's what I've got. I've got a book up here. That book there, it's got my goals in it. Everything that I want to do, I just write it down in there. If I can't do it now, I'll write it down in there. So on the weekend, I write down in there everything that I'm going to do on a Monday morning. And then on a Monday morning, I do all the jobs or do what I want to do and leave the ones that I don't want to do. And that's how you do it. The thing is, I don't think I look ugly. I just think I need to lose a little weight. You're very wise, by the way. Well, do you think you need to lose a little weight? Well, all you need to do, Crash Bash, is just go for an hour walk every day, and that is it. You go for an hour walk every day, and that'll sort out the weight. I'm sure of that. Trust me. That's all you need to do. You don't need to get down to the gym or anything. It's nice to get out for a walk anyway. I try and do it I try and do it 4 days a week, or 5 days a week. 4 or 5 days a week I try and do it. But if it's raining, I don't bother. But I do try and get out and do at least an hour a day, because that is the way to keep fit, really. I mean, look at me. I'm not really fat, am I? And I would be fat if I didn't go walking, and if I eat too much as well. And you can cut down a bit on what you eat, but I haven't got the money to eat too much food. So that's why I don't do it. You know, I am losing weight because I haven't got enough money for food, really. But I don't eat breakfast and I don't eat lunch. I just eat one meal a day. And that's all I can afford. Today I've eaten chips and spinach bites from Sam's Chicken. That's all I can afford all day. I could get something. I could get a little snack now, a little something, but I don't think I will. I feel fine on what I've eaten already today. And no point eating for the sake of it. So when you say I don't think I look ugly, well, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's a very good thing. I just think I need to lose a little weight. Well, I don't think that's something you need to worry about too much on your appearance front. But if you do need to lose a little weight, all you need to do is just walk for 1 hour a day. Trust me, just walk for 1 hour a day, and maybe just look at what you're eating slightly. That's all. Maybe get a book to do with nutrition. If you're not sure about nutrition, I've got a vegetarian cookbook. But if you eat meat, then you're gonna need to get a meat nutrition book. But all these recipe books should have an introduction in them, explaining about vitamins and stuff. My vegetarian cookbook does. So it's cheaper to eat unhealthy than it is to eat healthy. It depends really. If you cook yourself, it's actually cheaper to cook healthy. If you cook vegetarian, I can spend about £1.50 and feed 4 people. I can spend even less than that. I can spend about £1 and feed 4 people. You really can. I mean, eating healthy can be very cheap. It's just that at the moment I can't cook at the moment, but that's why I eat chips and spinach bites and things like that. But if I was cooking, then I could cook. I mean, the maximum it would cost me is £5 to feed 4 people. It's the maximum, really. It's a lot cheaper if you cook yourself. I don't know if you know how to cook yourself. We could go through some recipes if you want. It's up to you, really. Or what I could do is I could type it up, and if you give me your email address, I could email you the recipe. I could read them out, and if there's one that you like, you can say I like that one, and then I could type it out, and then I could email it to you. I don't mind. It's just so easy to buy an already made meal than it is to cook. It is, you're right, but cooking can be a lot of fun. I mean, cooking is a lot of fun, really, and you're missing out because as a species, I mean, you think about what a species does, right? As a species, right, food is the most important thing in your whole day that you're ever going to do, apart from sleep. Sleep, food, and water are the most important things. So really, instead of watching television or instead of watching YouTube or instead of doing whatever you're doing, you can always have YouTube on in the background or television on in the background. But the most important thing is to cook your dinner, really. I know it's a bit hypocritical of me to say it because I'm not doing it at the moment. But I'm just being, I can only speak the truth, you know, practice what I preach, not what I do. Because I know that cooking is cheaper, the food tastes better. So even if you cook the same thing again, it will have slightly different quantities. It's not like eating manufactured food. And as a species, this is what humans should be doing. Humans as a species should be cooking. And that is because that's part of our survival nature. Now, when you buy a ready-made meal or a takeaway, yes, they're trying to save you time and it's quicker and it's easier. But it's not really celebrating the glory of life and doing banquet mania. And I'm not really very, very religious, but when I have read the Bible, I find it interesting. And in the Bible, it does talk about banquets quite a lot. Now, this is the thing about humans. Humans used to really focus on their cooking and stuff a lot in the old days. Even my grandmother used to do it. I mean, all these frozen meals and that, they went around when my grandmother was young. So we're losing skills at the moment. We're losing cooking skills. Some classes and some people do keep it up. But we're missing out on survival skills, on cooking skills. If you don't learn from your grandmother or from your mother or your father how to cook, you're missing out. You know, you need to learn how to cook. You can teach yourself from a cookbook. That's what I did. I taught myself. My mum and dad never taught me a thing. My grandmother never did neither, but I watched her a bit and that helped a little bit. Even just watching people can help a little bit anyway. And what's this say here? It's just so easy to buy. Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, mate. I'd give it a try if I was you. You can always start with something simple like pancakes or something, or start with rice and dal and rice, or spinach and rice, or something simple like that. Get a vegetarian. I personally think that before you can learn how to cook with meat, you have to learn how to cook with vegetables, because vegetables can make a great flavour. And I'm a strong believer in this. That you should get a vegetarian cookbook first, anyway, before you learn how to cook meat. And you should master vegetarian first, because if you master the right vegetables that you're mixing together, then you put a bit of meat in there, it tastes really good. But if you just cook meat, you might just do like spaghetti bolognese or just steak and chips. It's not really it's not cooking the meat the best way. The best way is to cook it with vegetables, I think, and that's just what I think. Even though I don't eat meat anymore, I don't touch it really. Might eat it sometimes. Like the other day, someone bought me a gift, and it was actually a ham and cheese roll. Now I actually hate ham. I can't even eat it. It made me feel sick as I was eating it, but I ate it because the guy was so generous and so kind, and I thought, well, how can I turn this down? You know, I don't want to seem rude, and I ate it, but I did regret it a bit. But just made me feel a bit sick at the end. I mean, I don't like ham at all. I'd rather eat bacon than ham, really. And even bacon, I'm not a fan of, really. But so, Crash Bash, I don't know if you want me to read out a recipe for you or something. If you email me at eastlifetelevision@gmail.com, I could always Thomas Bladen, what's this? What's your goal for this channel? My goal for this channel is to help it's to unite the people is one thing. One day I would like a lot of people to be viewing this or to subscribe, but I'd like the whole of London or the whole world even. And what I would like to do is to I'm a mental health specialist. But it's not just about mental health. Mainly we just listen to music, and most of the time I'm not even here. I'm in the other room in the office. But this is the Pathfinder show, and in the Pathfinder show we can do presentations to do with mental health, and it's to do with meditation and stuff like that. On a Sunday, I read the Power of Now all day. The Power of Now is the book where we do the presentations from. And the idea is to solve all society's problems, really, which is to change the way that our minds are. Because it's only our own mind perception. Because if we deem that there are problems in the world, are there really problems? What's wrong with the floor? What's wrong with the wall? What's wrong with the ceiling? What's wrong with the tree? What's wrong with the plant? You know, what's wrong with the dog? What's wrong with the cat? What's wrong with it, with the world? There's not really anything wrong with it. So what's wrong with it, with the world? All there is your own perception. If you see problems in the world, it's your own perception. If you've got your own perception saying that there are problems in the world, then that's what I'm trying to help you with. I'm trying to make you realize that life is abundant. That's one thing you got to realize. Life is absolutely abundant. Because life is abundant, you don't really have any worries, because food is always going to be there. Water is always going to be there. These things will always be there. Because they'll always be there, what do you need to do as a species? As a species, you need to eat food. So what I say is if every mouth is fed, there's nothing wrong with the economy. It's only where there's hunger that there's something wrong with the economy. And there's food banks and stuff in England now, so there's no real reason for anyone to go hungry, really. My goal for this channel is just to unite the world and share joy and peace. And I want to try and help things like Palestine one day. I'm following some Palestinian organizations on Twitter. I want to try and understand what's going on there. At the moment, all I see them doing is blaming the Israelis all the time. I don't know if that is right or what, but maybe one day I got to follow the Israelis to see what they're saying. I mean, I haven't come across an Israeli channel yet. I've only come across the Palestinians. But I do want to try and help the world as much as possible. And we need to network and team together to do it. What's your thoughts on self-driving cars, Johnny? I think it's a great idea. I think it really is a great idea because then you can have children in cars as well. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, I do think that the car is a bit of a silly invention though, because a car only has a few people in it, and I don't have a problem with it if it's energy efficient and if it's done correctly. But I wish you were the best of luck. I found your opinion very insightful. That's all right, Thomas Bladen. No worries, man. What's your thoughts on self-driving cars, Johnny? Self-driving cars. Well, um, yeah, I think if it's done correctly and they're just like little boxes, things that move around the streets, you could just order one to your house. And but somehow they're gonna want to commercialize it because they try and commercialize everything. And I think really we have to get away from the commercialization. I think as a species, I don't know if commercialization is wrong, but these cars will be commercial and it'll be a commercial venture. As this commercial, you'll have to buy your own car and all this. I I don't know if it's right really. Maybe we should have self-driving buses. Or, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what my thoughts on self-driving cars are. I mean, I've not really done much thought into it or much consideration really. Um, I, I haven't got a car anyway, and I probably wouldn't get one. But if it was like where you could just rent one, which maybe you could, maybe I think that's the way it should be done. Really, it should be done like public transport. That's the way that I have it. The view in my head. That's the way I see it. I see it like public transport. You just call the car up. The car arrives. You get in it, and then you just tell it where you want to go, and you go there, and you pay like a public transport fee or something. I think that when the electric car becomes more advanced and autopilot becomes more reliable, there will be a service like Uber should bring an autonomous vehicle right to your door. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That's exactly how I thought it should be. Because there's no point in having your own car, I don't think. Very interesting technology. All this sort of stuff is really fascinating. All right. Okay. Yeah, I do think it's exactly how Thomas Bladen just said it. I think it will be like a sort of service where you just call the car up, it arrives at your door. There might be a whole load of them just in the street waiting. That'd be a good way of doing it, really. The thing is, though, with all these streets the way that they are, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think public transport is a better system, really, because I do think we do need the car sometimes, or a van. We certainly need vans and lorries. I don't know if they should be self-driving. I don't know. They will be one day, probably. So that's going to take a lot of people out of work. And what are they going to do? Well, we're going to have to do creative arts. We're going to have to do the creative industry. If we do the creative arts industry and we start paying £1 per item to each other, £1 for a photo, £1 for a film, £1 for a bit of music, we start all paying each other artwork. It's the only way we're going to survive, because as you can see, that all these lorry drivers, all these mini cab drivers, all these black cab drivers, all these people are going to be out of work. So what are they going to do? Really, they need to be in a creative industry. But how can they be in the creative industry where there's not enough money going around? We need to put more money in, don't we? Yeah, I agree, Thomas Bladen. That's right. I'm smoking high-grade ganja, weed, marijuana. That's why I'm an over 18 certificate. That's why I can't play this for children. Because I smoke weed, you see. And I don't cause any problem in my town or in my city. So because I don't cause any problems, police just turn a blind eye to it. I'm really pleased that they do, because all the police in the whole of Harrow know that I smoke it. But I mean, they could come and arrest me anytime they wanted to, really. They've busted this door down enough times. I mean, I have been arrested a few times, and I've even been to court. But the court just dropped the case. They said, no, don't worry about it. And I didn't even get a warning or nothing. I just got away with it. And then after that, one time I got sectioned, and while I was being sectioned, I was smoking a spliff at the time they smashed my door down. And when I was smoking the spliff, there was about an ounce just sitting there on the side. And when the copper handed me over to the hospital, he said to me, that stuff that you were smoking when we caught you will still be there when you get back. And when I got back, it was all still there. The spliff that I was smoking was untouched. It was how I left it. The weed was untouched and left how it was. I hadn't searched nothing or anything. So, yeah, that's the way it should be, yeah. I think it's because I don't cause any problems, and also I'm a great help to society as well. I mean, I don't want to be bragging and boasting, but I have influenced Parliament before on the British education system. In 2015, I done that. And then I helped them with the rebel situation to do with Syria. And then I helped them with that situation that Donald Trump nearly got us into. I helped them there. When I say a problem, I do write about it. I mean, at the moment, I haven't got my MP's email address. Don't know why, but it's not working. How did you do that? You just write to your MP. You just all it was that I realised that the British government were arming rebels, and what I realised was that was wrong. What I realised was that arming rebels was totally wrong, because if your child's naughty, you give him a gun. Now, a rebel is not a liberated person. They just got blamed. They're going to blame anyone, and they'll blame their government, they'll blame the king, they'll blame... If it's not them, it'll be whoever it is. It's like in this country, there's a group of people who will blame the government for everything. Now, they thought Brexit was their solution. When they find out that Brexit is not the solution to their problems, because it's not, it's just that they've all got a collective bad mind. Now, a collective bad mind is not going to get cured by Brexit. So they're going to have their bad mind, and then they're going to say, oh, the government haven't done it properly, or the government haven't done this, or they haven't done that, or... Oh, you know, they're never going to be content or happy, because they're a bunch of rebels. Because they're a bunch of rebels, we don't arm them, do we? I mean, in these other countries, they arm the rebels, and that's why I had to stop, and that's why Barack Obama done a U-turn. Because I wrote to I called the government actually at that time. I called the government, and I think I have to do that again now. Next time there's a problem, I'm going to have to call them, because the email's not working anymore. And I called them and said that the exit strategy is not good, because you go in there, you arm the rebels, and then you kill off Assad, if you do that, what's the exit strategy like? I said that the mental health state of the country will be worse than if you left it alone. If you leave it alone, the mental health state will be better than if you go in there and interfere. And that's what I told them, and they listened to me, and then they did a U-turn, and that's the sort of things that I do. I've got to keep an eye on international affairs, on our governments. Anyway, I have to keep an eye on the British government, on the American government. I'm following Donald Trump on Twitter. I'm following Boris Johnson on Twitter. I hope that on Twitter I get the news straight away that if they're going to do anything dodgy. But at the moment, we are heading towards a more peaceful existence. We really are. I don't know about the Palestine situation. It seems a bit dodgy to me, but I don't know if anyone has any suggestions about Palestine. I don't know. I really want to know more about Palestine. I don't know if anyone knows anyone from Palestine or knows anyone about it. Or
make it, Rasta must make it. My food me can't make them take it.
how did you do that? I'm not sure what question that is, or what is that? I'm not really sure what that is. How did you do that? I mean, have I answered that already? I'm not sure. But did you think that the president in the actual decision maker is the actual decision maker, or do you think there's people above him? Well, there's no one above him. He is like the final leader, but the president can't. I know in Britain, our prime minister can take us to war without Parliament's decision. So I don't know if Donald Trump can take his country to war without the Congress or whatever it is, the House of Representatives and Congress. I'm not really sure. I don't know that much about American politics, but I know that in England, our prime minister can. Yeah, you have answered. All right. Yeah, I'm not really sure. In England, I know that our prime minister can take us to war without a vote in Parliament. I'm sure of that. So, I mean, I'm not sure what else the prime minister can do without a vote in Parliament, but it does seem a bit strange that he can take us to war without a vote in Parliament. But maybe the vote in Parliament would take too long or something, and we need to get to war quicker sometimes. I'm not really sure. But we should never need to go to war anyway, because going to war is just stealing resources anyway. That's all it is. Going to war is just like a bank robbery. That's all it is. They gloss it up and say that it's because of terrorists, but it's not really. That's the story that they make up to get over there, to rob the petrol or to rob this or to rob that. But they never hold on to it for very long, because then the opposition get it back again. I think the Iraqis got their oil back now, I would imagine. But now there's a democratic government. Why is that? Democratic government so that we can control the oil source a little bit. That's all it is, really. It wasn't really that Saddam Hussein was an evil dictator as such, really. I mean, apparently he did murder some people, but it's not for us to interfere. If the civil war is not, it says in the United Nations Charter that if there's a civil war, you leave the country alone. You leave the country to sort itself out. So even if he did slaughter his own people, it's not our business. It just was never our business. And what we've created there is a lot worse than what was there before. I mean, the mental health state of the people there before was better than what it is now. I mean, now the mental health state is terrible. Yeah, you asked what America makes so much money from warmongering. Yeah, they do, but they can't get away with it while I'm alive. When I die, they can get back to it, but while I'm alive, they can't get away with it. I mean, they just can't. They tried it. They tried going. They tried getting Iran, but I wasn't having it. Because Iran is on their list of people that hasn't got Rothschild banks. See, all countries that are left over, the Americans want to invade. They haven't got a Rothschild banking system. You check it out and you'll see what I mean. Iran is not run by Rothschilds. That's why they wanted to invade there. That's not a reason to invade a country, to turn it into a Rothschild bank. That's what they're doing. Selling weapons to Middle Eastern countries, then selling more guns to uprising rebellious group of people, then making money entering the country after it's been demolished. Well, they're not arming rebels anymore. If you notice, they haven't done it for years, and they're not gonna do it while I'm alive. I mean, we've got to get the message out there as well that arming rebels is wrong. It needs to become common knowledge. Once it becomes common knowledge, then that's what I was on about when I asked, do you think the president is in control or the Rothschilds? Well, I don't know who's actually in control, but what I would say is that with the Rothschilds, well, as they go around the world, each country they invade becomes a Rothschild country afterwards. In Iran and Syria and countries like this are not Rothschilds yet. But that's something that I've stopped now at the moment. They're not invading them at the moment. They can't do it. I mean, I'm not sure what the other countries are. I think there's about 7 countries left that aren't Rothschild countries, or something. There's about 7 left that they want to get. I don't know if the Rothschilds are in charge, but I don't know. It's difficult to say, really. I mean, how long have you been streaming for, mate? All day. But I've only been in front of the camera since about 6:30. But I've been streaming all day. Looks like you've been at it for a while. Yeah, I have. It's all right. It's late now. I've got to take my medication now. Anyway, I'll just be 1 second. I'm going to make a cup of tea as well. Right, this is Y79 Magic. Right, I'm going to come on episode of 4 Uno now. We're getting ready for the night shift.